you've done on this project. Mike Carcentis. I probably just murdered your name, but it's spelled two different ways, and I'm not sure which one was right.
Close enough. I've been called worse. And I'm dressed in white. I'm advocating good things. I'm over 60 years old, and but I'm not Mr. Clean. I'm not bald-headed. So, but I am I'm speaking on behalf of AARP, 400,000 members in this area, many of whom are not able to drive and depend on walking and using electric carts and bicycles in order to get around in their neighborhoods. Complete streets would make this all possible. And the complete streets are not only good for the elderly, they're good for the entire community. Children can bike to school. They can, there are all kinds of health benefits, et cetera. So, senior moment.
That goes well.
In support of independent living and aging in place, two important aspects of the AARP program. Complete Streets will make these things completely possible. So please support Complete Streets. I also am encouraged by your support of the earlier project on Central Phoenix, which viewed pedestrian-friendly environments as a great asset for the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. John Walker? Walker? Okay, in favor. Greta Rogers?
Council members, members of the audience, I'm Greta Rogers. I'm in support of this, but what disturbs me is there are no specifics, no plan, no time plan with goals to be attained within a time plan. I met with Rick Neymark on Friday last, the 6th. And this was one of the subjects that I discussed with him, streets, transportation. And I said, we need a 5-year plan with goals for attainment each year, specific. This has been generalities. I haven't heard one specific in this presentation so far. We need to have a cost estimate. I understand very well, having been in business and trained in business, that you cannot project a cost 5 years from today. You can estimate, but it will change. But you've got to have some idea of what the devil you're looking at. This is going to be hundreds of millions of dollars. This is going to require bond money. This can't be done out of general fund tax, sales tax collected, or fees. So devise the plan with a time frame and costs and what we're going to do in year 1, 2, 3, and 4. This has to include sidewalks, curbs, streets, bike lanes. This is a major infrastructural change to bring this city to the 21st century instead of just a wider street because we have more cars. Granted, we don't start them with a crank anymore. But do you see what I'm saying? You need specifics. All this generality is typical Phoenix, feel good, and then pat yourself on the shoulder. It ain't gonna work. Thank you.
Paul Lumens? Okay. Justin Graham? Hearing, I'm pretty sure that says Graham, Justin Graham. Oh, he stepped up. Serena Unrain?
Madam Chair, subcommittee members, my name is Serena Unrein, and I work for the Arizona Public Interest Research Group, which is a state-based advocacy group that works to protect consumers and promote good government. And I'm also a member of the Phoenix Complete Streets Working Group and a proud resident of the city of Phoenix. I wanted to speak today to encourage you to support Complete Streets and these two ordinances that are before you. It's certainly the right thing to do for residents of Phoenix to provide them with transportation options, but it's also the smart thing for the city to do. Transportation trends are really dramatically changing. For the first time in 2 generations, we're seeing a shift in how people want to get around. After World War II, people started to drive ever more miles on the road nearly every single year. But in the last decade, we've started to see a real shift in how people are getting around all across the country, and that's true here in Arizona as well. Our last year where driving per person peaked was 2006, and between 2006 to 2011, driving per capita dropped 9.3% in Arizona, which is a pretty dramatic drop. And we're seeing that ridership on public transit in Phoenix is hitting record levels, and young people in particular are looking for ways to get around that don't include driving. They're looking for the options of using transit, walking, and biking. So to plan for the 21st century and build the kind of infrastructure that the city needs, we need to build streets that really make sense for the city of Phoenix and think about our streets as public spaces and provide the kind of infrastructure that not just the millennial generation needs, but also the baby boomers who are entering retirement ages and phasing out of the commuting stage of their lives, and older Arizonans really need. This is the smart thing to do for Phoenix, and if we want to use our scarce transportation dollars wisely, I think that the Complete Streets ordinances that are before you today are really the right way to go. I also wanted to address Councilwoman Gallego's question about metrics and say that I think it's a great idea to include metrics. We've been working hand in glove with city staff for over a year developing these ordinances, and we spent a lot of time talking about metrics and really a need to measure how we're doing, and I think that including metrics is the right thing to do, and if we can include those, then I certainly support that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. David Dubé or Doobie? I'm not sure which.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you very much. I'm David Dubé. I'm a public health policy consultant with the Maricopa County Department of Public Health. I'm also a 14-year resident of District 3, and I'm here to urge your support of Complete Streets. And I gotta tell you, I always get a little nervous talking in front of public, but when Ray and Mark and John sat down and then we could hear the Rocky theme coming into the building, it just was kind of an uplifting calm. The classic definition of public health is what society does collectively to assure the conditions in which people can be healthy. And when you ask yourself that question, am I healthy? Very little of your answer is going to be on the quality of your health care. A whole lot of that answer is going to be on the quality of your community. From this view, public health is not something that only happens in the public health department. Public health, that combination of systems, policies, and the environment that shapes our lives, our health, by making it easier or not to eat healthy and be able to be physically active at home, work, or school. So you now have an opportunity to practice good public health, creating those conditions for safe transit for all users. We're all pedestrians, and yet Phoenix has not ranked very well as far as safety for pedestrians and bicyclists. Approaching transportation from a complete streets perspective provides better decision-making, accommodating safe passage for all users. Also wanted to speak about active transit. That means you're getting around by either walking, biking, or using the public transit. And it's a key public health goal because it's a way to offer improved health, cleaner environment, reduce fossil fuel acquisition, environmental damage, and of course it improves fitness. So a fit community offers lots of advantages. Competitiveness for employers and and good business practices. Public transit users average 19 minutes a day just getting to and public transit. Full 30% of them get all of their recommended physical activity just getting to and from public transit. So what it offers for residents and visitors is a choice to bike and walk, whether to school, work, or play. Pedestrians and bicyclists are often viewed as that indicator species for a healthy business district and community. So when you see lots of folks walking, when you see lots of folks biking, you know they're supporting businesses and they're also getting fit. So thank you. I urge your support.
Thank you. Haley Ritter.
Hello again, members of the committee. Thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me speak again. I'd like to address Councilman Gates's request to have a sunset on this group. I would recommend that the sunset of this group may be pending the success and adherence to all the forward progress with no delays, no more postponement of major things. It's time to get moving. It's time to really get working on all of this stuff. I see construction workers out working on the streets all the time, and I wave and I give them thumbs up because they're the ones doing all this work. And there's a lot that needs to be done. Excuse me while I have a minor seizure. People like me, I have epilepsy. I'm having one right now. There's nothing I could do. I just have to laugh hysterically for a moment. Thank you for understanding. There's no need to call any services, but the point is that, yes, people like me who have quote-unquote disabilities oftentimes depend on bicycling and walking to get around the city. And it's often been sort of looked at as something only tweakers do, or something only, lower class citizens, or, people who live in poverty. But that's not the case anymore. There's a lot of people that need all this construction and overlays to be included with bicycle lanes. I appreciate your approval of the new bicycle lane on Indian School. I live just north of that area between 19th Avenue and 23rd, and I really appreciate that, having that bike lane there. Unfortunately, I've been honked at it as I head over the freeway, but again, the more and more we do overlays, including bike lanes, every time on major arterials, the better off this city will be. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Brian Baisley.
Hello, I'm Brian Baisley. I'm downtown resident. I live at 615 East Portland, and I'm chair of the East Lake Garfield Steering Committee for Reinvent Phoenix. I'm sure you're all aware of Reinvent Phoenix and all the strong statistics that go behind that, so there's no need to reiterate that. But one of the anecdotal stories that I want to tell you is I work a lot within the entrepreneurial community, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with Cahoots and Seed Spot. We were going to lunch one day with an ASU student from Tempe that lives the majority of her life in Tempe but works at a Seed Spot. And she'd been down working in this company for over a year and had never walked west from Seed Spot. So going west on Indian School from Central, she would rather stay and wait at the light and cross 3 lanes of traffic on each side and light rail stops versus walking west. So once I encouraged that group to go west, she felt more safe taking the alley, going behind, and actually facing cars that park behind there than actually walking on the 4-foot sidewalk. So again, this isn't just about bike lanes, and it's not about accessibility. It's about creating safe environments and moving lots of people. And that's one of the busiest intersections that we can talk about with bus routes, pedestrians, and cars. We need to think about this for the city, not just in the TOD, but all other areas. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Stacy Champion.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Stacy Champion. I'm a downtown Phoenix resident, cheerleader, sustainability advocate. To not create redundancy, I just wanted to bring up a couple of points as far as cost goes. We are basically on the caboose when it comes to complete streets. There are many, many, many cities across the country who have already gone full tilt boogie with complete streets. So it's easy to find a lot of data. What you will probably find, as I have if you look, is that adopting complete streets typically does not add any cost, and oftentimes actually reduces cost to a city. So that's one thing. To Councilwoman Gallego's point on metrics, I think that metrics should be a part of everything that a city does. How else does one measure their success but to have measurements and these tools in place from the get-go so that you can do comprehensive reports and actually show the work that's being done. I ask that you adopt it. I ask that we go full force and try to move as quickly as possible for the vibrancy, health, safety, economics, and everything for our city. Thanks.
Thank you. Suzanne Day.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for your time. I asked to speak because unlike a lot of the folks that are here today, Councilwoman Williams, I live in your district. I don't live in downtown. Councilman Gates, my parents have a home in your district. So I understand that different parts of the city have different needs, but I urge you to support fully the Complete Streets Ordinance, to implement it fully. I know that, as I said, the outlying districts are more car-centric. The center of the city is doing a good job becoming less car-centric. And I wanted to say to you, because your voters, well, just be brave. Don't be afraid. Please support this. It's important. We need alternatives to the car, even in the outlying areas and especially in the center of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Joseph starts with the P. Perez.
Good morning once again. I'm Joseph Perez, live at 100 East Fillmore. I think the Complete Streets policy that we're developing is really good. You can see a photograph of Van Buren on the left side of the screen right now. It proposes bike lanes on Van Buren from about 40th Street to somewhere in the neighborhood of 24th Street. Van Buren and Washington are the only streets that go west through downtown, and there need to be bike lanes on both of those streets. And a good test bed for this will be the project at Central and First Avenue in Van Buren, to have bike lanes next to the bus lanes like we have on Washington Street from 7th Avenue to the Capitol. That bike lane is on the left side of the street. It's a great bike lane. It's one way. It goes straight to the Capitol, helps Capitol employees get to the Capitol from downtown. We do need to put bike lanes on Van Buren to get to Grand Avenue, which now has a green bike lane and goes to 15th Avenue. And all of the beautiful development happening on Grand Avenue will be replicated on Van Buren. We have Crescent Ballroom, we have the Freeport McMahon building, we have the Arizona Center, we have the St. Mary's Basilica, we have U of A Medical Center. We have a lot of beautiful, beautiful infrastructure that needs bike lanes to get employees from light rail, from the bus, and from other parts of downtown, from the residences at Cityscape. There needs to be a way to get to all these beautiful places on Van Buren. I ride Van Buren every other day when I go home from work. I go from 2nd Avenue to either Central or 1st Street or 2nd Street. There's no bike lane on that street. I'm mixing with cars. You just heard a car drive by displaying speed with his mufflers loud. There is still a lot of speed downtown. We need better signal timing downtown. We need to control the speed downtown through better signal timing and more enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Tyson? I'm not sure.
Good morning. My name is Thomas DePero.
Oh, boy, I wasn't even close, was I?
That's okay.
Sorry.
There's two things that I would like to suggest that we consider. First of all, we are moving into an environment where our natural environment is just as important as the built environment. We need to consider this also as a complete green streets program, so that everybody who uses this largest component of the public space is taken into consideration. Inside a car, outside a car, on foot, bike, bus, every mode of transportation that we want to encourage and use in the city. So that's going to include the bike and ped plan, which I hope that you approve when it comes back. The second point is less sexy than creating this new stuff, which is maintenance. We suffer a lot because we don't maintain the level of our infrastructure at a level that is appropriate for what we expect to be able to accomplish in this city economically, livability. For instance, we just did an overlay on Indian School between 40th and 48th Street. Not less than a week after we completed that, we had somebody come back in and tear it up in two places. And the patches are less than acceptable. We need to make sure that that there is funding for maintenance, so that when we do the proper designs, that we are maintaining them at a level that we expect to use. That is a missing component, and we need your leadership to make sure that the budget is going to be there to get this implemented and keep it implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. I also have a stack of cards who do not wish to speak, so would you please enter them into the record so that we can acknowledge they were here. I have a couple questions. Ray, does this apply to all streets? New, old?
Madam Chair, yes, ma'am. It does apply to all the existing corridors and all
Yours?
existing corridors, as well as any new development and city projects that we would be looking at.
So you're talking about arterials to neighborhood streets?
All of the above, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you and I have had several discussions about the cost that this could be, because I have real concerns. We already have identified $300 to $500 million worth of repairs that are needed right now. I just wonder how you're going to incorporate that into the deficit we have now, and how you plan to do this in the future. And I think one of the said that objects should be to bring back a plan of implementation. I think it's extremely important that bike lanes are continuous, that you work with ADOT so we can stripe their bridges and make sure that I understand downtown is a different environment than the far north of my district. We're all automobiles up there. There's bikes, but they're recreational, and they're headed for a trail. The odds of more than a dozen ever coming to downtown, very, very slim. You're talking a Pinnacle Peak, New River Road. So I think you need to have consideration, although you will have new development occurring very soon, and how you make sure that for a mile you have something wide, nice, and then abrupt end. I think you need to incorporate ideas on how to address those needs as well as downtown. And I'm hoping, in my mind, what I see, this has started downtown, that it continues out from downtown so that it is continuous. The people at Indian School can go any direction they want on a bike lane, that the streets are prepared for that, that everyone's needs are taken into consideration, and then continue like in a spoke fashion, because I think the speakers are absolutely right. This is an area that bicycles are becoming the dominant means of transportation, along with public transportation. And I think it's important that we do this. But I'm very concerned about implementation and the costs and how we're going to pay for this, because I don't want people in this audience thinking this is going to start tomorrow when we have no money. We can't even repair the potholes that we have now. Then I think we have to realize that this is going to be a long term. I think that the city as a whole has to come up with new funding mechanisms to address these street problems, as well as I'm sure a lot of this in the future could be bonded. But that's way out in the future. We're not able to do that. So I would like to see you come back as part of the new committee to address those issues, recognizing the needs are different. When you compare us to some of the other cities, I doubt that they're over 500 square miles and have the diversity that ours does. If so, I would like to see their plan, but I really just think it's so important, because I think this is a great idea and I think it needs to be done. I think the devil's in the details on how we implement it. So, questions, comments? Councilman Gates?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I completely agree with the comments of Councilwoman Williams. That's why when the policy came to us before, and I thought it frankly committed the city to a lot of things without setting forth the plan, without setting forth how we were going to pay for it. That's why I think this approach with these two ordinances is much wiser. It creates the board that will look at these issues. It creates guiding principles, which is, I think, what we need, what we can all, hopefully, as a council, speak to and support are these general principles. But then we'll look to this board to get into the specifics, and keeping in mind the fact that some of, complete streets make sense in certain parts of the city, or maybe it doesn't in others. I think Councilwoman Williams makes a great point. In my district, a lot of the bike riders are going through the streets to get to the preserves. They're doing it to go to the trails. They may not be riding bikes to go to work. So because of that, there's going to be a different way to put those together. They're not needed everywhere, in my opinion. But at the same time, we do want to do everything we can throughout the city to make the streets more pedestrian friendly. But so again, that's why I think this is the way to go, as opposed to the very specific proposal that was put in front of us in April. So that's why I'm supportive of it. And again, that's why I thank staff and the working groups for what they've done to put together ordinances that I think make a lot of sense for us moving forward. Thank you.
Councilman Pastor?
So thank you for doing all this great work as we're moving forward. I echo the same comments, and I would like to see, and I just took it from the bicycle, but a complete streets master plan that incorporates the bicycle plan, and it's really a complete street master plan. And I'm looking forward to this board possibly being the ones that design it with other city staff and be able to create it. Now, I don't know if I should hopefully maybe within a year we can get this done, or a year and a half, but I would like to see it, since I'm looking at a bigger vision in the sense of we have all these different plans going that are all going to go through the general plan, and maybe it's not going to be as difficult as it sounds. When we can look at all many different plans and then say, okay, this is the whole. But I think we have to see something visually and concrete to understand where it's going. And I think the guiding principles are setting it right now as we move forward. So thank you for doing this. Thanks for everybody else for having the vision, and I support this.
Councilwoman?
Thank you. I have a couple questions. First, I thought I might start with membership. The city staff includes streets, planning, neighborhood services, water, police, fire, and community and economic development. In terms of public transit, should they also be included, or would the streets department represent them?
Chairman, Madam Chair and Councilwoman Gallego, we are still looking at that and making sure that we have a comprehensive team. My understanding is that we've talked to Transit Department, and they're going to be an integral part of that team
when we move forward with the committee.
So would it make sense if perhaps when we do make a motion that we
To
add
include that,
public
yes,
transit?
yes, ma'am.
And then we also, each council district is appointing someone, and we want stakeholders addressing that represent pedestrians, bicyclists, transit users, youth, seniors, people with disabilities, business. It seems very difficult to accomplish both of those goals, to have every council district represented and to also represent all of those constituencies. And I guess in my mind, representing all of the constituencies is more valuable just because people will have very different perspectives if they are transit users, people with disabilities, the business community. So I guess it would be my preference that we not do it by council district, but would be interested in what my colleagues think.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Gallego, we will work very closely with council and staff and all in trying to address the need to have a well-rounded team for the Complete Streets Advisory Board. And so we'll go through a strong evaluation process with set criteria to make sure that we do incorporate a well-rounded team, but we understand your concern.
Okay, and I don't know if anyone wants to weigh in on
So,
other questions, but would be interested
Regarding
in
the
people's perspective.
council, just to be making sure there's well representation, I strongly feel that a council member does have some input and someone is representing the different part of the city, because we have different issues and different dynamics. And so I'm assuming that you'll come to us and you'll say, okay, give us a list of people that represent these areas, and from there we'll determine who will represent the district regarding within these categories.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Pastor, we would, I guess we're looking at it this way, is we would receive the list of potential candidates, go through an evaluation process, and come to you with some of staff's recommendations after going through that analysis, if that.
Okay.
Thank you. I would be concerned. I think each council district needs to be represented. And usually what happens when we do that, between all of us, we manage to touch in almost all of those categories. In my district, we couldn't have transit because 2/3 of my district doesn't have transit. So that would not be probably the top priority in ours. Heard a lot of comments about the bicycles, so maybe somebody from that, as well as talking about balancing how we implement it and make repairs or whatever. I just think there's an attitude that is real important, that we are very diverse, that all areas are represented. So, do I have a motion or any further comments?
I have one more question.
Okay.
The 2 years on the performance metrics, how did we come up with that length of time?
Madam Chair, Councilman Gallego, that was direction from the law department. There's a set time for 2-year inclusion and then 3-year. So that was direction from the law department.
I didn't understand their rationale. 2 years is also the term, so half of the members would be leaving upon voting on their recommendations.
Well, they tried to stagger the participation.
I just didn't understand why the law department thought 2 years was important.
Performance measure? Madam Chair, Councilwoman Gallego, I think this is really up to you all. I mean, if you want to challenge us to complete that sooner, we can attempt to do that. I don't know that there's anything particular about the timing of that, other than to give the committee a chance to kind of hash through all the issues and make sure the measures are good ones. And as you can tell from both this process and also the bicycle plan process, things do take some time to sort through.
I think we have a lot of metrics so far, like pedestrian safety and shaded bus stops, which from our comments, I think everyone supports on this body. And so 2 years seems like a long time.
Councilwoman Gallego, I misunderstood the first comment, the initial question, but we do, as you know, have a draft set of performance measures. We're also meeting with the MAG staff. They put together a policy for complete streets and also have some good ideas and information regarding performance measures that relate to what we've also already put together. So we're working with MAG staff on information that we can implement, put into the performance measures for measuring tools.
As you take this further, you're going to bring it back through this committee, right?
Yes.
Give us updates and progress reports
The
and
plan.
your recommendations? Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councilman?
Yeah, I would suggest maybe that we would harmonize the performance measures with the recommendation for adopting the Complete Streets Design Guidelines Manual, so take it to 1 year, so that basically at the end of 1 year we could, we would have from the board both the guidelines manual and then the performance measures. I would agree with Councilwoman Gallego that shouldn't need 2 years to do that.
Do I have a motion yet?
Oh, I thought, good.
I would make a motion that we support the two ordinances with the changes that I suggested earlier, and then also in the spirit of Councilwoman Gallego's comments that we would change the performance measures to within 1 year to again harmonize that with the guidelines manual.
I second.
And could we add the public transit would be part of the committee?
And absolutely.
Anything else? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your hard work, everybody. We are now for item 9. I think Catherine Sorensen.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, actually Catherine's going to sit in the back, and we're going to have Troy Hayes come up along with Amy Conroy and Eric French from the Water Services Department to talk to you about a very interesting issue with some of our pipes and how we make sure that they operate in the way we need them to. So I'm going to turn it over to
I know
Troy.
we've had some challenges along 35th Avenue.
We've had challenges in a number of different areas.
Madam Chairman, members of the subcommittee, we are excited to come today to talk about our infrastructure and about how we are ensuring that it's reliable and we have it for years to come. And specifically, what Amy and Eric are going to talk about today is the assessment program on our large water transmission mains and how we are reviewing that to ensure they're around.
Good morning, Madam Chair and subcommittee members. What we're here is to talk to you about a program to avoid these pictures that are in front of you. These were 2 large transmission main failures that occurred in October of 2006, actually within days of each other. The first one was on Superior Avenue and about 40th Street in an industrial area. The pressure was so high that we actually blew a hole through a steel building owned by White's Construction. The second one was actually caused by a construction project that was occurring at 35th Avenue and the Salt River, where our main was hit by a backhoe. But this program is to help us to avoid these types of failures. Our goal is to prevent critical transmission main failures. We have almost 6,900 miles of water main within the city of Phoenix. 609 of that is large transmission main, which is 16 inches and higher. 250 is 42 inches, of which 140 is what we're here to talk about today, which is pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe. And our project currently is looking at the first 32 miles of the critical PCCP. This is a map of all of our PCCP within the city, and we've prioritized it. The red areas, of which we have 3, are critical within that 32 miles that we have not yet assessed, and we will be able to assess most of it next year. The green areas were assessed the green areas were assessed in fiscal year 12-13, and the yellow was assessed just this past fiscal year. Now I'm going to turn it over to Eric French to describe our process.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. I thought it was important that we talk about pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe a little bit so you understand what we're attempting to do. this here is a schematic of what a typical pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe looks like. It's a composite pipe made up of a thin steel cylinder surrounded on both sides by concrete, and then the outer layer is wrapped in high-strength wire put under tension to squeeze the pipe and basically give it its strength. And there's an outer layer of mortar that protects that wire from corrosion. And that's really what we're looking for, the wires. The wires are what really give the pipe its strength. So this assessment program that we're looking at is attempting to quantify and determine the impact of deterioration of these wires on the pipe strength. So that's the schematic. This is an actual picture, and so what we're really looking for is those are the wires right there. And you can see in that picture right there, those wires look like they're in pretty good shape. There's a couple little areas of discoloration, but overall that's a pipe that we would say is likely in a good shape and not a candidate for replacement or rehabilitation. So I wanted to talk really quickly about the process. It's 6 to 9 month or even longer process depending on multiple factors. The process goes through a general planning period, and it's two layers. There's a macro planning level that talks about shutdown windows, about when we can take these pipelines out of service without impacting delivery of water to customers, and kind of schedules those with other projects that may be going on, and finds a time window during the year that we can do that. And then it goes into a further detailed step-by-step planning process where we talk about who does what when. Then we move into the inspection. The inspection involves dewatering these pipelines, because we actually do internal inspections. So we shut the mains down, we get all the water out of them, and then we enter the pipe. The picture you see here is actually of one of the inspection technologies that we use. It's electromagnetics that actually induces an electric current in the wire, and then measures the resulting magnetic field to determine whether there's wire breaks. And then we also do a visual inspection where we look for cracks in the inner part of the pipe to give us further indication of deterioration of the pipe. And as part of that inspection, we immediately begin looking at analysis of the pipe and starting making decisions about what we're going to do. We find joint repairs that might be needed, or minor repairs we can take care of right in the field as the pipeline is down. More significant repairs that are required, we'll go through a verification process where we'll verify the information we got from the tools. Just like any tool we use, it's not completely fail-safe. So before we make million-dollar decisions, we kind of want to know if the information that we have is completely correct. And then based on that information, we make the decision to either repair, replace, or re-inspect that pipeline. So I wanted to go over a couple things that we found of note. The first one was on a scenario that we call Scenario 25. It's a 48-inch pipeline between Van Buren and Buckeye Road on 67th Avenue. And in our inspections, visual inspections, we found this crack. And this crack is a longitudinal crack, so it runs along the length of the pipeline, and it's indicative of advanced stages of deterioration of these pipelines. This is about a 3-foot-long crack, and it was surrounded by hollow sounding area that we found using hammers. And when we dug up the pipe, this is what we found. So this is the outside of the pipe that we cut away, and you can see here the red and black, that's corrosion, active corrosion that's going. Either those wires are either actively corroded or completely gone. And so that was a pipeline that was in dire need of repair and replacement, which we did. So then we found a pipeline just south of there that showed these significant circumferential cracks. And circumferential cracks are not typically ones that we're totally concerned about. A lot of times they're indicative of the manufacturing process, but these ones were specifically concerning because of their size and the quantity of them. And so we decided to go ahead and repair this pipe by providing some carbon fiber reinforcement, that's the later stages of that process. That's similar to repairing bridge piers in Southern California or earthquake-prone areas, similar technology. So that was that scenario. Then we want to talk a little bit about Scenario 6, which is a 42-inch pipeline coming out of our Deer Valley Water Treatment Plant near the Metro Center. We found this one in late 2012, early 2013. Again, another longitudinal crack with a hollow sounding area. So we dug that pipe up, and we actually saw this crack on the outside of the pipe with going through several of the wires. So again, another pipe section that was of a major concern. And we actually ended up replacing this pipe section along with several others for a total of about 240 feet. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Amy now to wrap up the discussion.
We've been working on this program since 2003. We have inspected up to 86 miles of transmission main, one more than once. Our Val Vista main, which comes from our Val Vista water treatment plant in Mesa into Phoenix itself. We've done 48 miles in the last 3 years. That was due to a lot of coordination within water services and other projects that were occurring. We've rehabilitated since 2003 6.7 miles, most of that on the Val Vista main. We actually have a program over the next 4 to 5 years to completely rehabilitate a large majority of the Val Vista project. We've also replaced 280 feet of pipe, most of it adjacent to Deer Valley through Cortez Park. But we've also gone through and done many improvements to our system, hydrants, valves, just so we can operate our transmission system more effectively so we can continue to provide people with water. Our goal is to complete all 140 miles of PCCP inspection by 2021, and that also includes re-inspection of pieces of pipe that we are watching, and then develop plans for the additional 459 miles of transmission main, which is 16 inches and above, like I said before, for the whole system. The transmission system is really the backbone of our system and is why this project is so important to us. And now we have time for questions if anyone has any.
I could take, that pipe, all different manufacturers or one?
Actually, we've been very lucky. Most of our pipe has been manufactured by Amaron International. They've been bought by someone recently at a plant that is located on 7th Street and I-17. So most of our pipe has not traveled far. There have been industry issues with PCCP, especially back east, by other manufacturers. We are very lucky we have not had any of those manufacturers. But because of design standards, especially in our growth period of 1974 to about 1985, there are pipes that we have within our system that we're very worried about, hence this project.
Do they have any kind of guarantee on them?
They have, Madam Chair, they have the current 1-year guarantee, but I will tell you Amaron has been a wonderful partner with us in helping make sure that we have all of our as-built. They've done testing for us to look at strength. They've been with us step in step with us and our consultants on this project.
And do those cracks affect the quality of the water that's passing through?
Madam Chair, they do not have any impact on the quality. They would if they ruptured, similar to those first two pictures, but no, they do not have any impact on the quality.
And is there a difference in the water, I don't know how to describe it, that comes from the different plants? I mean, is part of this because we have hard water or something that's in the water that could help?
Madam Chair, the integrity of the pipe is not really impacted by the quality of the water. We do have differences in water quality in our water treatment plants due to water sources, but we treat to common standards, so all the water coming out of our 5 water treatment plants has the same basic components, but it does not have any impact. Most of the problems that we're looking at are structural. So it's actually how the pipe is made, and if there's some kind of, like, maybe the mortar chipped off and we got into the steel cylinder, and then you start having rust, and then you start getting leaks, or if something happened on the outside of the pipe and there's corrosion of those wires, those pre-stressing wires, which basically keep the pipe so that the water pressure outside doesn't cause it to burst. So it's not due to the water quality, it's mostly structural.
And are all these inspections done manually?
Yes, the majority of them are done manually with the technology, but they do have robotic technology that we have used. The amount of main that you can do because of the way our system is set up and how you get into our water transmission mains, it's very difficult to get some of the robotic technology. So it's a little easier for us to actually dewater the pipelines, use some of the man-motored, push it through the pipe, as well as do some of the visual inspection.
Well, recently we had a presentation on new technology that has sensors, and they're looking to do a pilot project. I don't know if that's something Rick and Catherine's going to pursue or not, but it sounds like it'd be much more efficient.
Madam Chair, subcommittee members, yes, I was in that presentation, as was Catherine Sorensen, Water Services Director, and we are in communication with those folks. I think Catherine's got a conference call set up shortly about that, so that hopefully sometime after the summer we'll follow back up with you about whether or not that technology might be applied here in our system.
It just seems that our system is aging. It's something we've never really faced before because it's always been pretty new, and that we need to look down the road and to have the best systems available, and the technology is improving on a daily basis, quite sophisticated, that would reduce manpower to go out and actually do these. So, other council questions, comments? No? All right. Well, thank you very much. We look forward to having an update maybe next year and tell us how many miles you've got done. I believe next is public comment, and we have one card, David Tapley.
Hello everyone. So I'm the British programmer that Feliciano alluded to earlier and caught me off surprise. I had no idea he was going to do that. So I just thought I'd throw in under general, since I want to talk about bikes and complete streets.
Sure.
Back to back. So firstly, kind of generally on bikes. Yeah, I've been here just over 2 years and car free since I got here. It was my intention to get a driver's license, but I haven't really felt it necessary. And I've seen some good progress on the old bike lanes, but it's pretty miserably slow, to be honest. Like, and I guess that's the streets department is probably where that lays. And I've been to quite a few of these, and especially the Circle K ones, and I still get the impression people don't quite get how it works, that you can't just painstakingly slowly paint strips of green in sparsely and that without any density. And I heard someone say here earlier, we just need some wider sidewalks so people can ride bikes on. And that's just laughable to anyone who's kind of a cyclist commuter, because that's not how it works, and you just stay in this same situation where everyone just rides on the sidewalks and breaks traffic laws because there's not enough density to actually be on the road anyway. And the culmination of this actually was, so an officer stopped me when I was riding through downtown. So it was one of the one-way streets, and I sort of, as a cyclist, you're always aware of getting hooked from the right, because drivers are usually on their phone. So you lane split to the left to go straight through, and an officer on his bike, quite correctly I suppose, pulled up behind me and said, look, if you're going to ride in the street, if you're going to be a car, you've got to obey the laws. You've got to be a car. And that kind of said it all to me, that the mindset, we've got some bike lanes going in, but the mindset is still streets for cars, that's where cars go. Bikes are just a sidewalk thing, get off the road. I think that's quite disappointing. And then so secondly on complete streets, I have a couple of concrete examples of nuisances, I guess. So I heard that there was a proposed street diet on 7th Street between Roosevelt and Washington, and that got basically sidelined again. Just deal with it later, I suppose, is the attitude. And so I was sitting at the Rose and Crown, the pub in Heritage Square there, and they've got a nice patio, and you look over, and it's one of those things when you're in a car, I can see all you see is traffic, because you are at the green, red and then green, and you look around and there's cars. When you're just at Heritage Square, you just see this vast expanse of dead space. And then boom, all the cars shoot past, and then there's just dead space. And again, it's like people think they've got the right idea, but then everyone just says, well, you know, deal with it later. It's not really a problem right now, but it is a problem right now.
Thank you. I need you to wrap up.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, well, that's it. Essentially, I'm going to move to Denver because
just for our bikes?
Just because it's a nicer place. I went up there and it just blew me away.
Shame.
Well, I went there and I was just like, everything I've wanted in Phoenix for the last over 2 years, they've already got. So that's my closing thought. Thanks for trying, though. Good luck.
I'm sorry to lose you. Yeah. Greta?
I would just like to thank. You can't hear me? I'm whispering.
The audio.
You're just too quiet.
Okay, does it sound better now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to reinforce what Councilwoman Williams said with regard to funding, costs. 2 of you sitting there today are going to be running for re-election next council term next year. Put your political idealism aside. This is essential. And we aren't going to have the money from the tax revenue or the incidental fees and fines. You're going to have to raise revenue. And if you present the reasons for, the necessity for, my experience living in this city for 43 years is the people support and vote for. Our last 2 bond issues, which are now, a long time, we passed with plus 70% plurality, both of them. One was 74 and one was over 75. I don't remember the exact figure. And you can do the same thing with presenting need for and reasons for raising revenue. It has to be done. Exhibit integrity and exhibit courage and exhibit purpose for, and it will happen. We will agree. And I also commend Mr. Gates and Ms. Gallego for saying 1 year max for that portion of this streets presentation that was made today. I'm glad we're moving forward into this century. Thank you.
Thank you. And then that brings us to future items, probably for fall. Does anyone have any? Well, I do. I think this may be an process of going forward is an inventory of all the bus stops in the city of Phoenix to see which one needs shelters, which ones need repairs, and make sure that wheelchair accessibility is part of that inventory, that people do not have to go into the street, because I can tell you there are a lot of them that do not have shelters in my area, I'm sure in your area as well. So, and also I would like, I know you have, Catherine's working on coming up with a new citizens committee, and as part of that, I would like to make part of what you bring to us on the recommendation for that committee, a review, a plan that takes in a future planning, what to address the problems that we know we're going to have in 10, 15, even 25 years. Not only identifying, but making maybe some recommendations on how we can begin to address those problems. We're working with the other agencies. I know a lot of people are working on this, and I know we're better situated than a lot of other cities, but I think it's never too soon to look out into the future for long-range planning on this. The drought continues to go another decade or so, and I know CAP and the new EPA rules on the coal-fired plants can all impact us very quickly. So, anybody else? Thank you.
I have one.
Oh, go ahead.
Street landscaping. I know it's on a future agenda item, but if we can move it forward. Thank you.
And be sure to add cost to that.
Yeah. Be sure to add
Cost and water usage. So, thank you. Anything else? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
Thank you.